Hi everyone! So, as I promised, I'm going to try and do daily videos for you. The first one today is taking measurements. Sounds like it should be a really obvious, easy thing to do, but I'm just going to run through a few tips for you, which you can then pass on. If you've got someone who can do it for you, fantastic. If you haven't, it'll be slightly more tricky, but not impossible, because I usually do my own measurements anyway. So, using myself as an example, I'm going to step backwards shortly so that you can see when I do further down, but for here at the top, I'm not going to share with you what my measurements are. I'm only kidding. You just make sure that you haven't twisted it at all, and then what I do is I do it, and you might have noticed this when I do your measurements, I do them really, really tight. So I pull really, really tight, because how tight is tight, if you see what I mean, whereas if you do it loose, or you might be able to do it looser. Does that make sense? But you can only go as tight as you can go. So what I do is, obviously I can't see that, so what I then do is I just hold it in place and shimmy down, and I read that I am 35 inches across my boobs. And obviously I'm dressed, so you may well be doing this naked, which is what I usually do, to be honest. Waist is easy, so I do 3 waist measurements for you, but I'm not expecting you to do that. But it's entirely up to you. If you want to carry on doing it, I shall talk you through what I do. So I always do your narrowest part of your waist. When you first start losing weight, it's often the narrowest part is just under your boobs there, if you're a woman. And same again with men, it's sort of just under the rib cage, the lower of the rib cage, when you're starting to lose weight. But what tends to happen is that as you lose weight, it drops down, and the lower part, you can usually just find your lowest part, even with the tape measure actually. So if you wanted to just start up there, you can sort of shimmy it down to the natural point where you can't shimmy it anymore because your hips are starting to go out. And again, exactly the same thing. I pull it as tight can be, and then I just hold on to, I've got a metal edge to mine. So if I just hold on to the metal edge, the bit that isn't the metal edge, I can feel where the metal edge is. I hope this is making sense. I can feel where the metal edge is, but that's not the bit I'm holding. I'm holding the actual main part of the tape measure here, rather than the metal bit, which is there, although I'm holding that too. So tight as tight can be, and then I just loosen it, and I'm not going to share with you if I'm joking. Mine is 29.5 at my narrowest point. Then I also do your widest part of your tummy. This is slightly easier if you're naked, because obviously you can just lean down and have a look, and you just, again, pull the tape measure to it. That one's obvious. And then the other one that I do around your waist is your British Heart Foundation measurement, which is where your belly button is for most people. For me, actually, it isn't, and my mum's the same. There is a more accurate way of working out your British Heart Foundation if you want to be a bit more accurate than your belly button, and actually you can check whether your belly button is the accurate measurement, if this makes sense. And what you do is you find your lowest part of your rib, so you can track down if you wanted to, and for me there's my lower rib, and I'll put my tape measure down now, and then you find the top of your hip, which for me is there. It's hard to show when you're wearing clothes and easier when you're naked, and I'm certainly not going to show that with you, but you just find midpoint, so roughly around there. So my belly button is there, and you can see that mine is higher than my belly button, but for most people apparently your belly button is roughly the same as your British Heart Foundation measurement. So wherever it is for you, just take it from there. And again, same thing, if you're going to go by belly button, don't do what I often do with you guys. I often start from the wrong end of the tape measure and then think, why has it gone up quite a bit? Make sure you start from the right end. So the right end obviously is the lower end. So belly button is there, and this is the one, I'll talk you through this in a minute. So again, I do tight as tight can be, hold on to both ends, the metal bit and the other bit, and then let go, holding on to the metal bit. So my one is 31, and for although I am again wearing jumper and everything, it's meant to be naked. It's for a Caucasian woman, it's meant to be under 31.5 inches, and for to be out of any of the risk factors. For a Caucasian man, it's meant to be under 37 inches. If you are over 35 for a Caucasian woman, you're high risk, and if you're over 40 for a Caucasian man, you're high risk. For people of Asian descent, you should be under those male sort of gender specifics. So for a woman, you should be under 31.5 all the time, and if you click over 31.5 inches, you're high risk. And same for the men, if you you should be under 37, and if you are click over 37, you're high risk. And that's just because of research done with people of Asian descent. They have more of these diseases at lower weights, if that makes sense, even though you're then overweight. So hips, again, that's quite an easy one to do. I just do it around the sort of middle of my bum. It's obvious really, just where your bum is, and then tight as tight can be. Exactly the same thing again. Hold on to both parts and then let go and have a read. And then your legs. So if I go back now, what I do with you guys is I just get you to bend slightly. Go back a bit further. I get you to bend slightly. If I do it that way, you might see a bit better. Just so that I can see your midpoint. So midpoint, obviously halfway between where your crease is at your thigh and your knee. And then I just do halfway. And again, that's an easy one to do. The hard one, which I find impossible, but I can sometimes do it if I'm, I don't know, feeling particularly limber, is doing my arms. Arms are just a nightmare. So I'll show you what I did. I wrap it around like that. Again, I do roughly your midpoint, and then I hold the metal bit, and then I pull really, really tight. It's really quite tricky to do. So for me, I'm coming up, I think about 11 with my jumper on. But that one is a little bit more of a guess. I often drop it at that point with my arms. Those are the main measurements to do. If you want me to run through it again with you, just let me know when we do your FaceTime appointments. Hope that helped. Keep going, everyone. You're doing awesome.